Hello, welcome to the Moment Ep10. This time I have 3 topics to talk about. I'll be talking about the Northumbria Bloodbikes and the work they do, including an interview with one of the group's members. I'll talk about the new triple-decker roundabout that's being built at Silverlake, and finally I'll be talking about a hit list of Labour MPs that appeared recently on a local Momentum Facebook page. So for now, let's turn to the first story. Northumbria Bloodbikes has recently won an award for its vital work. The Queen's Award for Voluntary Service is the highest award that's given to voluntary groups in the UK, and winning it certainly highlights the important work they do, transporting blood and urgent medical supplies between hospitals and other facilities. Northumbria Bloodbikes itself is actually part of the larger National Association of Bloodbikes, who have 30 member groups currently. And I spoke to Kirsty Lawrence, who's the publicity officer at Northumbria Bloodbikes, to talk about the work they do. And I started by asking when the Northumbria Bloodbikes started.
They first actually became an organisation in starting stages in 2012, but obviously it took them a little bit of time before they became an actual registered charity and became operational. So they actually started operations in February 2014.
Right, okay. And why was there a need for it? Why did it get going?
We operate between like the evening hours and weekends and bank holidays. So we support the different organisations that need blood, platelets, notes, and there was just this little gap in the map of England where we didn't have a blood bike group in the northeast. So we, obviously, the groups that came together and established Northumbria Bloodbikes plugged in that little gap that was up on the map.
Right. So it was already a rare thing elsewhere, was it?
Yes. So Bloodbikes have been in existence for many, many years. And they have actually expanded quite a lot, and they're actually expanding into different countries now. At the moment, they're working on something in Canada. There's something going on in Australia. So they're starting up in different places, and obviously it's very new to those countries. So it became started in England many years ago. So it's something new for them. So it's in the very early stages.
I then asked why the hospitals couldn't do what the Bloodbikes do.
So obviously it's all down to costings. We are completely volunteer run, and as a charity we fundraise and apply for grants and sponsorships for us to actually exist. So everyone actually gives up their own time. None of us are paid. So we're actually saving the NHS and different organisations that we support a lot of money, which can then be put back into frontline care, so paying for extra nurses and all of those sorts of things. So it's all about saving money and being able to support people a lot better.
Yeah, that makes sense. So who can volunteer to be in the organisation?
Anybody can really come and join us. As long as you're over 18, you can become a fundraiser. You don't have to actually ride a bike. We have drivers as well, because we actually have 4x4 vehicles for obviously when we do get the bad weather in the northeast, and when we're transporting a large amount of blood, we obviously need more room than what we can get on a bike. So you can be a driver, a rider, a fundraiser. We actually answer all of our own phone calls. So we have coordinators that take the calls from the different organisations that want us and contact our riders and drivers and dispatch them to the jobs. So there's lots of different aspects, as well as all of the background jobs. So all the admin and things is all done by our volunteers as well.
All right. So how do you get funding usually?
Collections in supermarkets. We have groups that go out and fundraise for us. We've got a team in the Great North Run. We've actually got 27 runners cars this year. One of our volunteers organised a big event earlier this year called the 360 Challenge, and it's the second year that he's done it, and it raised over £12,000. Grants, applying for grants from different organisations, trying to get in as charities of the years at different businesses, individuals that support us because we've helped save their life. So it's all different aspects that we have to try and get funds in.
Alright. So as for the bikes themselves, how do you get hold of that? Are they people's private vehicles that they're just using, or how does that work?
No, all of the vehicles are owned by the charity. Some have been donated by businesses that have either fundraised for us or had us as Charity of the Year, or from grants that we've received. And then other ones are actually from the pot that we've fundraised ourselves. So all of our vehicles that we have, we provide for volunteers to use.
I then asked how the nominations for the Queen's Award came about.
Well, it was a very kind application from the Newcastle Trust and Dr. Rachel Halls from the Great North Air Ambulance actually submitted an application because we support the Great North Air Ambulance and obviously the hospitals. And we were very lucky to actually be one of only 3 blood bike groups to actually receive the award. So last year the first blood bike group received it, and this year there was ourselves and another group.
And I finished up by asking if Kirsty remembered any particularly memorable cases.
It's very rare that we actually find out about who we are helping. So when we do get a bit of feedback from people that we've supported, it's always very memorable for us. But one of our volunteers always remembers that he had transported a very urgent sample, and it turned out it was actually for meningitis, and it was for a child.
Oh.
And months down the line, he actually found out that that child had actually been diagnosed with meningitis. So us being able to get it to the labs for it to be tested quickly obviously did help towards the recovery and the treatment of that child. So it's little stories like that that we find out occasionally. Normally when we're standing fundraising, we'll have someone come up to us and say, we were actually saved by you. But mainly we don't actually know who we've helped, so it's completely anonymous. We don't actually find out unless people approach us.
It's clear then that Northumbria Bloodbikes and the association in general do very good work for people, fitting in a service that the NHS simply can't provide. And it's very encouraging in general to see local volunteer groups like this who aren't supported by large organisations or the government, that are very grassroots and that do very good and important work for the local communities. So now it's time to move on to the second story. Highways England have been working on the North East's first triple-decker roundabout at Silverlink. According to the Northumberland Gazette, quote, 3 bridges are being put in place, one to support the A1058 Coast Road over the Coast Road roundabout, and 2 to carry the Coast Road roundabout over a newly lowered A19. And the work on the project has been going on for a year now, but they've reached the point where 55 concrete reinforced beams are going to be put in to form the base of the bridges. On the Highways England website, they talk about the project in a bit more detail. In the progress report, they say, quote, why we need this scheme. The junction suffers peak time congestion with delays of over 4 minutes per vehicle on the A19 southbound approach. The accident rate at this junction is higher than the national average. And the report then lists the planned actions that will be done to build the new system. Quote, we propose to realign the A19 under the existing A19 roundabout, construct a slip road to allow the A19 A1058 Coast Road junction access to and from the lowered A19. Construct 3 new single-span structures to allow the Coast Road and A19 roundabout to cross over the realigned A19. and they continue with saying that they would build retaining walls and enhance bicycle, horse riding and pedestrian facilities, as well as installing new street furniture. So it's definitely an extensive project, and according to the proposed timeline, work won't be completed until March 2019. Gov.uk has also made a press release about the project, which reads, quote, "The improvements, which are part of the government's five-year £15 billion road investment programme, are designed to support opportunities and economic growth in the North East as part of the Northern Powerhouse Initiative." So let's take a look at the road investment strategy for 2015 and 16 to 2019 and 20. There's a lot of preamble in the first several pages, but I'll read the section entitled Taking the First Steps, which outlines the strategy from a financial angle. It reads, quote, "In total we have committed over £15 billion of capital investment. We will also undertake 127 major schemes over the course of the first road period." And just as an aside here, I'll say that the first road period is the 5-year span from 2015 to 2020. They continue, quote, "These wide-reaching plans represent good value for money. The company," referring to Highways England, "has proposed efficiency savings of over £1.2 billion during the first road period, with a target of at least £2.6 billion over the next 10 years. So just from that, it's very clear to see that this new roundabout isn't just some throwaway attempt to improve traffic at that particular junction. It's in fact part of a much larger plan to improve the UK's road networks. And certainly with the kind of money that's being put into funding the programme in its entirety, it certainly looks like they're not going to run out of money, at least for the moment anyway. So now let's turn to the final story. At the beginning of the month, the South Tyneside branch of Momentum published what's been called a hit list of Labour MPs. According to the Chronicle, quote, "The Momentum activist group compiled a list of 49 sitting MPs who it suggested could join the Liberals. They were said to include Chuka Umunna, who led a revolt on leaving the EU single market in the Queen's speech, Chris Leslie and Jess Phillips." And, of course, the list has since been removed from the South Tyneside Momentum Facebook page. The Chronicle also say, quote, "Momentum dismissed the Times report as laughable, saying the list did not reflect the group's national policy." Now, that's fair enough. Anyone who's a member of a Facebook page can post on that page, and it's not specified exactly how long that post was up before it was deleted. However, most groups do have moderators of some kind to make sure that things like this, which could hurt the image of the group, are not published. Even the local Bedlingtonshire Matters Facebook page, for example, has moderators for people's posts. But even prominent supporters of Labour, such as Ken Loach, have expressed similar ideas. And Ken Loach is quite clearly a big supporter of Labour. In fact, he recently made a Labour Party broadcast which supported Jeremy Corbyn. Mr. Loach spoke at a Durham Miners Gala where the Huffington Post quote him as saying, quote, "We've got to stay strong, and for that we need a united movement. Now I'm going to be contentious on this day of unity. We need representatives in Parliament that are committed to this programme and will not work against it." He went on to say, quote, "We need an injection of democracy because most people in trade unions have to be elected, and nothing is more perfectly democratic than when members have served their time in Parliament, they have to be affirmed or reconfirmed by their members, because we cannot have the disgusting attacks that went on against Jeremy in the last Parliament." So, a high-profile person there in Ken Loach, who really has no career incentive to be as brazenly pro-Corbyn as he is, espousing the opinion that there shouldn't be dissenting voices within the Labour Party in order for Corbyn to be successful. And ex-Labour Minister Alan Johnson, in an interview with Sam Delaney, has spoken about his views on the Labour Party today. Now, for what it's worth, Johnson was a member of Tony Blair's cabinet and did vote in favour of the Iraq War, so his stance may not be the most objective. But he does say, quote, "I feel that this narrow sectarian left that is intolerant of other views is what is there behind Jeremy Corbyn." And you can judge for yourself whether you think his opinions are accurate or not, but his view, and I think the view of a lot of people on the outside of the current Labour Party, is that Momentum in particular has become something of a fan club for Corbyn that aims to see him succeed no matter what. And it's this kind of tunnel vision that allows people like Ken Loach and like whoever put that hit list of Labour MPs up on Facebook to say that only MPs who are committed to the programme should remain in the party. And that's all for this episode. Be sure to join me in a fortnight's time for more from around Northumberland and Newcastle. Until then, I'm Oliver Ralph, and this is The Moment.